Good evening, everybody. At this time, I'd like to call to order the City of Sebastian Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of Thursday, March 5th, 2020. I'd like everybody to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Graham, roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Roth?
Here.
Mr. Simmons?
Present.
Ms. Cottenberg?
Here.
Mr. Carter?
Present.
Mr. Reyes?
Here.
Mr. Cristino?
Here.
Mr. Kizelbosch?
Here.
Mr. Alvarez?
Here.
Thank you.
I would like to mention that Mr. Eugen is excused from tonight's meeting, and Ms. Cottenberg will be voting in his place. Our next item on our agenda would be approval of the meeting minutes. I'd like a motion for approval.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of February 20th, 2020.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Kizelbosch?
Yes.
Mr. Roth?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Ms. Cottenberg?
Yes.
And Mr. Alvarez?
Yes.
Thank you.
We have approval of the meeting minutes. Okay, before I open the quasi-judicial hearing, I would like to remind all the commissioners to turn on their mics when they're speaking. At this time, I would like to open our quasi-judicial public hearing, if I can have the city attorney read.
Can I suggest something? Can we handle accessory structure first?
I apologize.
Can I handle item number 9 first, new A?
Are we looking for some change modifications?
Yes, yeah. I think we could have that first here.
We have a motion to make a change to the agenda, which will require a unanimous vote of our members. Is there any, I'd like to take a vote on that, I guess.
No.
Yeah. What we're looking to do is move the new business
Mr.
in
Chairman.
front of the quasi-judicial, is that correct?
Yes.
That is your motion?
Which you'll need a second.
We'll need a
for.
second.
I'll second that.
We're gonna look at the accessory structures first, before the quasi-judicial public hearings. We have a motion and a second. Roll call?
Excuse me, who made the second
Carter.
and who made the motion?
I did.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Kizelbosch?
Yes.
Mr. Roth?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Ms. Cottenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Alvarez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay. So we moved our new business to the top of the agenda. We'll start with accessory structure. Mr. Stokes, can you please read the first one on the agenda?
Well, actually, yes, under new business 9A, accessory structure review, the first one is for 725 Layport Drive. Applicant is Justin Potet.
Thank you. Is the applicant here to present?
Yes.
Please come up to the podium and tell us a little bit about your project.
How's it going? So I live on a half-acre lot.
Excuse me, can I have your name and spell it, please?
Justin Poteet,
P-O,
P-O-T-E-A-T.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I lived on Layport Drive. It's two conjoined lots that are pretty heavily wooded. I'm requesting to put a 744 square foot accessory structure onto my second lot adjacent to my home. Setbacks are 20 feet from the back of the property and 15 feet from the side of the property. Slightly larger than the 500 square foot allowable, but I've chosen materials that closely resemble the colors of my house. It is a pre-assembled steel structure from USA Steel Buildings, and they come in and do the installation themselves. The only thing I would be doing is preparing the lot. Have a permit application for the building, adding a culvert, and just removing a couple of the palm trees to make space for that accessory structure.
Excellent. I would like to mention that you said you have a 15-foot setback from the side yard and a 20 from the rear.
Yes.
Is shown opposite, or is that considered the side yard on there?
With the corner lots, how we judge the rear lot versus the side lot is wholly based on where the shorter of the two lot lines.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Okay, does staff have a, thank you, sir. If staff can present their findings on this?
So, yeah, so staff went through the required items which are found for compliance in section 7, and staff deemed that the request was mostly in compliance. The only provision that we have with regard to the acceptance of the requests are twofold. One, the board needs to decide if the proposed carport meets the intent of the Planning and Zoning Commission review for provision number 7C. Proposed carport roof has a similar color, but not a similar roof material as the home. The proposed carport only has a 312 pitch roof. The existing home has a 6 and 12 pitch roof. It should be noted that, as the applicant had mentioned, that the site is heavily wooded, and a condition for the board to consider if they wish to approve the accessory structure would be that the site remain heavily landscaped to curtail any deleterious effects to surrounding properties. It also should be noted that the applicant has applied for the driveway permit, and it's going to remain as a dirt sod with a culvert pipe over the existing swale.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to ask if the commissioners have any questions of the applicant, and I'll start with Mr. Carter on the
I
right.
have no questions at this time.
Mr. Kissenbach?
Yes, couple of minor things there. Is this open from the front and the back?
Yes.
Okay. My advice is to you, make sure check with the building department that it will meet with the latest building code with the 160 mile per hour speed limit.
Yes, it does. I paid extra to have that extra insert. I think it's certified to 180 miles per hour.
How it will be anchored, do you know that thing?
How
There's
long
no
what?
slab there, how it will be anchored to the ground?
In the engineering plan, it's specified that it has
It's
screw-in anchors.
Yeah, it's a screw-in anchor and a concrete footing on the bottom of the post. So it does meet the Florida building code.
All right, yeah, make sure, check before you spend any money, make sure check with the building department.
Yes, okay.
All right, thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Cristino?
Yeah, I've got a question here. They can construct a separate driveway to access the building?
Just
So
the
you're putting in an additional culvert? in
just the
front.
culvert. It'll remain grass, grass driveway.
That's gonna stay grass, it's gonna stay wooded from the street side?
Yes, yes.
I guess that's about it. And, like, I wish it was on a slab, to be honest with you. Big building to have just tight on. Like a
Yeah,
hill.
that'd be nice.
Okay.
Mr. Roth?
Yes, I think, do you have any problem with keeping the trees and keeping the lot relatively heavily wooded as it is?
No, not at all. The only trees I'm removing are a couple of the palm trees that I need to access the building and to install the building. None of the large oaks are being removed, and that's the majority of the nice landscaping on that lot. So,
It's a picturesque setting, I will tell you that. Looks very nice.
yeah, thank you.
And it'd be good to keep it as much as you can without
Yep.
interfering with the driveway. I too am concerned about the shed and the wind loads on it, because it's open and it forms a canopy, if you will, with wind coming through. But I guess that's your concern. The color you mentioned, it said it's compatible with the house. Usually we see something, and I would defer to the plan office before the permit is issued for them to approve the color that's selected, just because, well, for your own protection.
Yeah.
The type of roof that's on there, was it noted as a 612 pitch or?
312.
To 312.
No, 312. 312, I see it. And the roof type is what?
Galvanized steel.
Okay. That's the extent of my questions.
But it is painted. It's like a dark slate gray that closely matches my shingles, or close as possible.
Okay.
Ms. Kaltenberg?
I have no questions.
Do you live at the property, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all I have.
No questions.
Thank you.
I have just one more question for you there. That pitch roof, 312, it's a metal roof. How close is that accessory structure to your neighbor's house? And because in a heavy rain, it's going to make a racket.
Pretty good ways from my neighbors. My neighbors behind me also have an empty lot, and the neighbors just beside me have a tall fence, and their houses.
They have no
Probably
objections to this building going up. Have you?
I haven't spoken with them specifically, but
They're not going to be able to see it from their
No.
property, is what you're saying.
no, yes.
All right.
As far as wind loads go, this is an engineered building that's approved to use with those anchors, so I understand your concern, but it should be designed to handle those loads.
Okay, I'm all set. I'm satisfied. I'm sure that you-
I have no concerns. I can't imagine trying to meet the pitch of the existing residence. It's a beautiful home you have there, and it's fancy.
Thank you.
I like it. It is way in the back in a heavily wooded lot. It looks like you already have a drive headed that way anyways in your yard that's been worn, so
Yeah,
I do agree with Mr. Kissenbach's concerns about the anchoring, so I have seen the neighbors go up in a storm and land on the wires and created havoc for the whole neighborhood that day, so. Other than that, I like your plan here.
thank you.
All right, at this time, I'd like to, just make a motion for approval. I'm looking for a motion for approval.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept the accessory structure for 725 Lakeport Drive, 24 by 31 carport.
I will second that.
Discussion.
Roll call, please.
Discussion,
I'm
please.
sorry. I thought we just went through discussion.
Well, on the motion,
Okay,
there's nothing in there about the plan staff approving the final color before it goes forward. Would that be acceptable to the motion and the second to add that?
we're looking for an amendment to the motion for the city to review the color. Is that okay with
That's
your
okay, yeah.
motion?
So that would, you request the applicant to bring us in something from the contractor? Just so we can get a better color and just verify that it's close to his roof? Is that what you're looking for us to do, Mr. Roth?
Yes.
Okay.
I've shown the color from the website, but I don't know if maybe I can print something off or bring that in.
If you can get us a cut
I-
sheet, we'll put it with the file.
Okay.
I want to add that we're asking them to keep the lot wooded and cover it up, but we want them to make, is, how much, a couple feet of side that's going to be colored? You said it's going to be a slate color, kind of like the house now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we have an amendment to the agenda, the motion. I second it. Roll call, please.
Mr. Roth?
Yes.
Mr. Kizilbosh?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes?
Mr. Alvarez?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Cottenberg?
Yes.
Unanimous. Motion passes.
Your project's been approved.
All
Good
right.
luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next item on the agenda for the accessory structures, 9A, 958 Bermuda Avenue. I believe one of our commissioners has to abstain from voting on this.
Yes, I recuse myself because my son has designed this structure.
Okay, does the proper paperwork have been filed?
For the record, we need to note it that Mr. Kizilbosh is going to be filing a Form 8B. We do have one for another project that he has to step down already, but already completed, that you have copies up there. We're required to do that. But we just noted tonight, right
Yeah,
now
I
before the
saw
meeting.
that.
So he will fill that out. It will be attached to the minutes. And we are, per the form, giving you notice that he has, he'll be doing that and submitting that to staff.
Thank you. I see the applicant has come up to the podium already.
Stephen with a V. Last name is Steinacher, S-T-E-I-N-A-C-H-E-R. Good evening. I'd like to build an accessory structure that's 980 square feet, and I believe that I've covered and met all the criteria that's been asked for me in all the codes.
Okay, the staff have give us their findings on this, please.
So staff went through the required findings, and we found that most items were found to be compliant. And we have the following considerations for the board. Based on the submitted plan, there appears to be 94.67 feet of perimeter area around the proposed structure, which will require 32 shrubs to be planted and maintained around the perimeter of the proposed structure. This should be an item that the board may wish to mandate as a part of the approval. 2, the site would be required to keep and maintain a minimum of 12 trees on site. And 3, it should be noted the homeowner has applied for an auxiliary drive permit with a culvert pipe over the existing swale with elevation set by the stormwater department.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners? We'll start with Mr. Carter.
No questions?
Mr. Castino?
I guess you just have a slight difference in roof pitch? From
No,
the s-
it's the same.
It is the same pitch. Okay. Let's be the next one. Same roof pitch, your 18 foot 3 inches elevation to the peak?
Yes, same pitch, same material, everything will be the same. Same color.
This is a concrete block structure?
Yes, sir. Stucco.
Engineered, the roof is engineered?
Wooden truss, yes, sir.
Okay.
1 foot overhang for the soffits.
That's it, those are my questions. That's it. I'm all set. Looks like it's gonna be quite a project.
Mr. Roth?
Yes, sir.
I like to see new projects going forward. It shows the city of Sebastian is growing and the residents seem to be happy. I have a question. I drove by and there aren't any trees on it now, and I know there's a shrubbery plan that will go with it. Is that correct? I'm asking the plan staff. There's some type of shrubbery plan that will go with this?
The requirement is that the perimeter of the accessory structure have perimeter landscaping. In this case, it's shrubs, 3 foot on center, 2 foot at height at time of planting.
Okay, will the petitioner know that? as part of the project?
Part of the code.
Well, it was in the stat, yeah, he does
Yeah.
now.
Okay. The other question, what is the use of the building? It looks like there's a lot of concrete around there. and-
Yes, sir. I collect auto cars, and my wife wants her garage back. So I have to move my cars to someplace else.
Okay, will there be outside storage?
No, nothing. No, everything is inside. It fits 4 cars. 2 doors, one door in the front, one door in the back. This way I don't have to jockey any of the cars around if I want one.
I noticed the side door faces the house, so that would be good. Should the lot adjacent to you on the west be sold and the residents go there?
So if to the best of...
You're going to use that concrete pad then to move vehicles around, but no outside storage?
No, sir, no. I already have a garage that's the exact same one of this one, and the garage is beautifully landscaped, and there's nothing outside being stored. It's just to store high-end automobiles.
Okay. The electric plant, I see does have electric and...
There's
I
no
understand that.
plumbing, and there's no air conditioning.
Right. Okay, thank you. That's the extent of my questions.
Mrs. Gothenberg.
I have no questions at all. I'm glad to see a substantial, well-designed structure. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions, Mr. Steinecker. You just said a little while ago that you have another garage in Lansdowne?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You came in last year and you said the same thing that you...
No, it was 4 years ago, sir.
Well, whenever it was, okay? I don't think it was 4 years ago because I haven't been on the board 4 years.
Well,
It's fine. My question is, how many garages are you going to have with houses here? I mean...
Well, I've got 7 houses in the city of
understand.
Sebastian.
I mean,
There's
are we-
only one other house that has a vacant lot to it, and that lot is not what I would look for, so this would max me out.
Well, see, I have a problem in the sense that, you know, having houses with empty garage or empty lot, and then, you know, how many houses are you gonna have with a garage next to it? I mean, I don't know if that's allowed or not, as a...
That can't be a consideration here.
No,
We've got to treat every
cannot.
one of his
No, I'm just
properties
asking.
separately. We can't treat him any differently with this property just because he happens to own other properties in the city. No,
Okay. No, because
that can't
sometimes
be
there
a
are
consideration.
restrictions.
Well, I have a lot invested in this city, and everything I do is up to code and beyond.
I understand.
Okay? All my rentals are better than the houses next door.
I understand.
Okay? So as far as being anything wrong with it, no. And from my point of view, after I leave, those houses will be in high demand for people coming down to put their toys in, such as boats and other cars.
Okay. No, I understand where you're coming from. Believe me, I do.
You know,
I
if
was
I
just
wanted to
curious.
go the cheap
It's just
way-
curious that, you know, if I have 20 houses here, and then, you know, with
Well,
lots...
no, I don't have 20
No,
houses, I
I'm
have
saying
7.
me in particular. If I own 20 houses here and I have a lot next to it, okay, then I can go ahead and build 20 garages.
Yeah, you
Well,
can actually.
Until you put...
Yes, you can actually. So let's stick to...
Well,
Okay, no, that was my question, that's all.
yeah, but until you put something in the rules, I can do
I
it.
understand that, sir. I'm just questioning, that's all. Just gathering information.
Let's direct the comments to...
Okay, so I'm okay with it. Thanks.
Mr. Simmons.
I have no questions. They've been answered.
I was going to ask, because I know that I was here for your other meeting, and yes, so your tenants like fancy cars, and you're going to build a garage for them. I have no problem with this. I do have a question. Is 3 feet, what is code for above the ground of the road for any new foundation?
Typically, it's 18 inches above the crown of the road.
But
Okay.
again, this is not a living, this is
It's
not a
not a
residential
habitable
structure.
structure.
As of now, it's not. Could he come in later and request to do some modifications to this building
No,
to turn it into a rental?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, the properties are married together, so...
He's out of unity of title
got a
right now.
unity of
I see
title.
that, so.
So
All
it
right,
doesn't-
I have no further questions.
Yeah, it needs some-
I'm looking for a motion to approve the item on the agenda, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the 26-foot by 38-foot garage building, 958 Bermuda Street, subject to the additional considerations on page 3, 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Roth, is there any other discussion? Sorry.
None, thank you.
All right. Roll call, Ms. Graham, please.
Ms. Cottenberg.
Yes.
Mr. Carter.
Yes.
Mr. Roth.
Yes,
Mr. Reyes.
Yes?
Mr. Simmons.
Yes.
And Mr. Alvarez.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Your project has been approved
Thank you, Pete.
through the commission. Okay. Our next item on the new accessory structures is 9A, 1520 Glen Tree Lane, a 22 by 38 detached garage. The applicant here to make his presentation.
Greg Anderson.
Yes, thank you.
We only have one house.
I'm sorry.
We would like to build a toy box next to our house, half-acre lot. We wish it to be as architecturally integrated with our residence as possible. So all materials will be the same, including the standing seam metal roof. Generous setbacks on all sides. There was a field engineering error in the measurement of the pitch initially. So the pitch of the house is 612. The pitch of the garage will also be 612, not 712 as it shows on the engineered drawing. The only other thing that I am aware of was the request for perimeter plantings, which is fine. We like our landscape. We like it to look nice. To the north side of the proposed structure between the garage and the house, there is a existing paver walkway, which I would like to maintain. That's our access to HVAC and pool equipment, and also where I hide the trash cans. So that would be problematic for plantings on the north side of the building, but that would still allow, I believe, 60 feet of plantings around the perimeter.
Okay. Staff?
Staff is
If I can ask one question real quick in reference to what he just said.
Right.
So if he didn't surround the structure with a shrub, is that a problem when they can't put it on the, I mean,
In the case of this particular request, he has some additional pavers and some other equipment out there that
Right.
really doesn't lend itself to landscaping. The board could just mandate that the other sides are landscaped and give them relief from that one side. You could reduce the number of required plantings. It's really up to the board as to how they want to proceed.
okay. Thank you. Now, I guess that is your findings?
Yeah,
I'm
our
sorry.
findings are simply that there was a glitch with the field error that he had mentioned with regard to the pitch. The one question that we were kind of discussing here is, you had mentioned that this new structure is going to have a standing metal seam roof,
Yes, sir.
and we weren't sure, what is the existing home? Is that shingle, or is it?
No, it's a brand new standing seam metal.
Okay. The original drawings had showed something else, but if
Google
he's going to
Earth
match
is
the
outdated.
roof, yeah, we don't have any issues with that.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'll ask the commissioners if they have any question of the applicant. Mr. Carter.
No questions.
Mr. Kissenbosch is back
Yes, sir.
to voting.
Right now you have RV park there. When you build this garage, where the RV will go?
That RV is not mine. I'm doing some pro bono work for an old friend. And he
Okay.
smushed the nose on it, and I'm fixing it for him. but that, it won't be there.
Because I was looking for your garage door height, only 8 feet 8 inches, RV won't fit there.
No, it won't fit, and I don't want an RV anyway. We live in paradise, I don't need to go anywhere.
Okay, all right, that's the only
I
question.
like that.
Okay.
Mr. Christina?
I could see the reduction in the shrubbery. There's no need to put shrubbery in between the home and the garage, as far as blocking the view. I'll grant them a waiver there. Should probably be able to reduce that, like 10 shrubs at least.
I wouldn't get carried away. I'll trade a shrub for a tree on the other side of the property. So, anyhow, Mr. Roth.
I feel the same way. I picked up on that you don't need the shrubs all the way around the house or around the accessory structure, nor do you need them in the front, because it's basically a garage door, except for a few feet. So I think that, the rear of the structure and the, let me see, it would be the west, I believe the west side would face the neighbors.
Southwest, yes, or southeast, actually.
Okay, I lost my bearings over in that area, so you're probably right. But the side away from the house, I think, is where in the rear of the structure is my feeling, all where you'd need to have the shrubbery. And I'm happy about the pitch. It's not that close anyway that I don't think would have made that much difference. And the, are there any lights scheduled on the outside of the building facing your neighbors?
On the outside facing the neighbors, no, sir.
Okay, am concerned about that because personally had an experience with that years ago, and the light was on all night, and it was a problem, and it was a bright light.
No, I wouldn't anticipate doing that ever.
Okay. I know you don't have a door on that side either, so that's good. No further questions.
Ms. Kloppenberg?
No, I have no questions. I just have a comment. It seems like, I'm just shocked at how many people have so many toys. That's all. What can I say?
It was a long time coming.
No questions.
No comments. I'm fine.
Mr. Simmons?
I'm okay.
I can relate to them toys. It's my birthday tomorrow, and I has 10 registrations I have, so.
We got a lot of toys.
A lot of vehicles. I have no questions, and I have no issues with the trees, the shrubbery. If you wanted to trade a couple for a tree, I'd be okay with that too. So, all right, at this time, I'll look for a motion to approve the applicants. Preston.
I'll make a motion to approve the accessory structure as submitted for 725 Lakeport Drive, 24 by 31 foot carport.
No, you have the wrong one. There's so many tonight. They look very similar. There was almost the same comments on the last two. So.
Get the right one.
That other property had more room.
1520 Glentley Lane.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And it's 20, correct my motion, please, 22 by 38 foot, 1520 Glentley Lane, lot 2 and 3. With the staff recommendations and the current report that it will be a 612 pitch. And I'd like to add that shrubs are only required on the rear of the structure and on the side of the structure facing away from the resident's house.
Second.
If I may comment, he mentions that you only required to, it's not really correct? I mean, we're okay with him not planting as many as are required by code, correct? By him, the way he mentioned, he says you're only required to plant.
So it's the board's discretion as to how they want to proceed.
How somebody receives it.
Typically, though, the way we analyze the perimeter landscaping requirements, we just take the areas that aren't in front of a door or a garage door.
Okay.
It really doesn't take into account other things like the placement of the structure in relation to the home or other factors that he has already mentioned.
Thank you.
And I think you may want to word it that the requirement can be reduced to not
Yes.
include.
I'm defending myself against future applicants coming in here and saying, but you told this guy he's only required to plant them on the side. Okay, we have a motion and a second and a clarification. Ms. Graham, roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Roth?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Cottenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Kizilbosh?
Yes.
Mr. Alvarez?
Yes.
Unanimous. Motion passes.
Good luck, sir.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
You have a very nice looking home.
Thank you. We intend to keep it that way.
Good.
Okay. At this time, I will open our quasi judicial public hearing. Item 6A, if I can get our city attorney to read.
Actually, if we could take one preliminary matter, and it'd just be easier if we do it this way. Both 6A and 6B are quasi-judicial. All testimony or information that's provided in quasi-judicial matters must be done under oath. So if I could have anybody who is planning on speaking on 6A or 6B, if you could stand and raise your right hand, and we'll swear you all in. Do you solemnly
Mr.
swear? or affirm-
Kissenbosch, I'm sorry. Mr. Kissenbosch will be
For B.
presenting on,
Yes.
For the B.
Oh, you're gonna.
well, he did it combined, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna do them together, so go
Okay.
ahead for B.
All right.
You
Thank you.
solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stokes.
And then moving on to A, it's a conditional use permit, new model home at 958 and 964 Roseland Road, lots 19 and 20, block 162, Sebastian Highlands, Unit 5. The applicant is Holiday Builders, Inc.
Okay,
Mr.
the
Chair, if you
applicant
could
can come up and make his presentation, please.
Actually, Mr. Chair, could you ask the commission if they have any ex parte communications before we get started?
certainly can.
Thank you.
Do any of the commissioners have ex parte communication with the applicant?
No.
Seeing none, we will continue.
Good evening. My name is Trevor Lewis, Lewis on the last name.
Thank you.
As we just stated, we're just seeking a conditional use permit for our new model home on Roseland, as well as the parking lot adjacent to it. Very similar to what you'll notice about a quarter mile down the street that Miranda had done with their two model lots. The model home itself is complete, CO'd already, and we are just waiting for approval to clear and prep the parking lot next to it.
Okay. Staff, present your findings.
So staff went through the required findings found in item 6. We found them to be compliant. And with item 7, the conditional use criteria, we also found them to be compliant. The additional considerations are that with a model home, the permits expire 1 year after the date of approval, but may be renewed administratively. At the time the model home permits expire and no longer renewed, the applicant would be responsible for the removal of the parking area, connecting sidewalks, and all signage. Recommendation for staff is that we recommend for approval with the right-of-way permit as a condition. A right-of-way permit from Indian River County will be required for the parking area, and a building permit for any model home signage is obtained. It also should be noted that they've already applied for a sign permit with the building department. Oops. 2 more. Third condition, illegal flags and signage shall not be used. Off-premise signs or directional signs cannot be placed along city streets. And number 4, the contractor will remove the parking area and model signage when the model permit expires.
Thank you. Commissioners, Mr. Carter.
No questions. Pretty straightforward.
Mr. Kissenbach.
One question. In the supplemental information, the business hour, you say none, open house. What do you mean by that?
I think that might have been what was identified on the sign itself, because we alter hours as far as daylight savings, but our typical hours are 9 to 5 for our model centers.
Yeah, when you say none, I mean, that's confusing. You see open.
No, I understand what you're saying. That's when I read through this earlier, I think it was because they put it on the sign application. I'm not sure. And I know that there wasn't going to be any hours listed on the sign itself.
I think we should like to have the hours of 10 to 5, something like that, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Okay.
Mr. Christina?
I have no questions. Everything looks to be in order.
Mr. Roth?
None. Looks like a good plan.
Thank you.
Mrs. Konsenberg?
No questions.
Mr. Alvarez? Mr. Simmons?
I have one. Are there any outstanding issues currently with Holiday? That's Corey.
I mean, not that I'm aware of, if you're asking me.
I'm not sure how that is in respect to the item. Mr. Simmons?
I'm sorry, what?
No further questions for the applicant?
No, that's it. Yeah, just that question.
I have one question for the city. Why is he required a right-of-way permit? Is he adding a turn lane in there? I mean, it's public right-of-way now.
It's for the driveway onto the parking area.
Yeah, but if we had a home there, we can put a driveway onto the parking
That
area.
street belongs to the county,
It's a county access.
the Roseland Road.
Oh, Roseland.
Yeah.
Yeah, we called it a right-of-way permit. It's the driveway permit for the parking lot.
Yeah.
They have
Okay.
to get from Indian River County since it's a county
Not us.
road.
Right,
And they would be the ones
I'm-
establishing the pipe and all, yeah.
He just straightened me out on that one. I was like, why are we requiring him to pull a permit for? Looks like the majority of the plants are being relocated. Is that what's going on the lot there, or?
There's some that have to be removed, and then whether they can be relocated or if we have to replant, we'll see how they do.
I know in the past on some of these model home parking areas, they were storing plantings for their homes on the property. I'm just curious if we were gonna be doing something like that in here,
No, sir.
or overloading the landscape on the parking lot and then later on using it for your homes.
No, sir.
I've seen that happen before. I have no further questions. Looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to...
Chairman, this is a question,
I'm
this is
sorry?
a public hearing.
You're right. If I can only follow your rules here. Okay, I'm gonna open the floor for anyone in favor of the project that would wish to speak. That's probably why I do that all the time. Okay? In this case, I'll open the floor for anyone in opposition of the project that wishes to speak. Seeing none, I will move on. Has the applicant provided response to all the commissioners' questions? No? I would like a motion now.
I will make a motion to approve the conditional use permit application for Holiday Builders Home Model at 964 Roseland Road, lots 19 and 20, with the staff stipulations of item 10, 1 through 4.
Question, should we add the time, the open and close? As a recommendation?
We can enforce
Yeah.
it. I mean, it's up to the board.
It's a conditional criteria. If Mr. Lewis was just to state for the record that their time limits will not be outside of the 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., I think that works. We don't have to do it as a condition.
Okay.
Fine with that.
And our time limits will not be outside of the 9 a.m. to 6 p.m.
I'll
Okay.
second the motion then.
Thank you. Mrs. Graham. Roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Kizzelbosh?
Yes.
Ms. Cottenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Roth?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Mr. Alvarez?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the board and staff for your time. We will follow the conditions to the approval.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do I need to close that one and open another one?
No, we just go to the next item on the agenda,
Thank you, sir.
which is Agenda Item 6B, Site Plan Modification for Hometown Pet Care Center, seeking additional parking at 827 Sebastian Boulevard, lots 20 and 21, Block 187, Sebastian Highlands, Unit 8, C512, Commercial, County Road 512 zoning district. I feel compelled to admonish the commission on something very important. It's highly, highly unusual to have a commissioner step off the dais during a meeting and present an item. And I didn't know this was going to happen, but just to admonish the commissioners, you are to treat this application the same way you would treat any application. Is completely irrelevant that he is a colleague of yours presenting this. He is outside of that role right now. So if you could proceed that way.
Thank you for that. And he is aware that we don't give him any goodies here. He has presented to us before and was denied by us.
The other thing that I'd like to make the board aware of is you have in front of you Form 8B.
I do.
Which
Thank
we're
you.
required to let you know that a copy must be provided to the members of the agency, and the form must be read publicly at the next meeting after the form is filed, and disclose orally the nature of your conflict before participating, and complete the form within 15 days. And so this is our notice to you that you have the form in front of you.
We do, thank you. At this time, we'll ask the applicant to make his presentation.
Actually, if you could seek any information on ex parte communications prior.
I'll ask all the commissioners if there's been any ex parte communication with the applicant.
No.
Nope.
Hearing none, we'll move forward.
Yes, as you know, I'm the engineer for this improvement of the pet care center. And this center need a lot of parking. So we're adding 4 additional parking to the adjacent lot, which is a part of the same property, plus stormwater retentions and landscape requirement. We are also doing the existing asphalt surface. Existing parking is not in a good shape. We also replacing it with a concrete parking. And also we're gonna improve the landscape on existing area too. So that's this project with the 4 additional parking and stormwater retentions. That's it.
Thank you. Staff?
Staff went through the request. Appears that all site-related items are compliant with the Comprehensive Plan, Land Development Code, and the CR 512 Overlay District. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. 1, abandonment of all interior 6-foot side yard easements. 2, the existing sign is to remain as is until such time that it is either removed or destroyed. The provision that is any new signage would have to meet size, height, and setback requirements. And that's all we have. Actually, there's one other small item that I'd like to bring up. The existing sign, the skirt, doesn't quite meet the ground requirements. We would like also a provision that any landscaping as a result of the new construction in that area shore up that bottom skirt so that it's adequately covered with either landscape or berm.
Thank you. Commissioners. Mr. Carter.
No questions.
Mr. Cristino.
This is all to add 4 parking spaces?
Yeah, we're spending that much trouble, you know.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
I have no other questions.
Mr. Roth.
Just a little bit about the facility. It's a veterinary clinic. Is it also related to having dogs there stay over daytime?
No boarding, no.
Okay, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That answers that question.
Yeah.
I know there's a parking issue on that corner, but it's not related to the site. I think this will help alleviate that some, but I'm complimenting you on moving forward on that. And I think the plan looks good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mrs. Kaltenberg.
It looks like an excellent plan and a definite improvement to the area. There's no question.
Mr. Alvarez?
Well, no, I'm just passing on to Mr. Simmons first. I have one question, but I can look it up, but nevertheless, now that you're here, the entrance is gonna be with the same entrance, you're not gonna have anything,
Same entrance, yeah.
yeah, nothing on the alleyway and none of that?
No, we're putting a hedge there, so nobody will be coming to that.
All right, that's it.
Mr. Simmons.
I have no questions.
I have a question for city attorney.
Always good.
So whenever a project is developed on a multiple lots, and what county is doing that thing, they automatically abandon that interior easement. They have just simple form in-house, they just applicant sign it, and they abandon the interior easement. And I think we should follow the same thing. We should look into that, so.
I would and of course,
Yeah.
leaving the professional land planners to this, but, there are so many different easements for so many different purposes that doing anything automatically would always be dangerous. I think it at least needs to be reviewed to see, is this a utility easement? Is it simply a setback? Is it an access easement? I mean, there's so many different reasons an easement might exist. I don't know if you guys.
We have to look at each project, when it's encroaching the easement, it's already covering the easement, so that should be automatically abandoned. So instead of going to each utility companies and signing off everything, so county is just, the county does inside our house, so.
I mean, it's definitely something that staff could look at, and if they think it's appropriate, make those recommendations to council, but,
So you're speaking about vacating the existing easements by the plat that are on the property
Between the
now,
two lots, yeah.
that are not being utilized for the purpose of them.
Yeah, yes, that's it.
Yeah, I don't see an issue with that.
So I think, and just to clarify, Mr. Bosch is speaking right now, our current abandonment of easement process is, there's an application, there's a fee, and then it usually takes about 4 to 5 weeks. We have a form that we send to the five utility companies or the entities that can use those easements. And we have to get their signature that they're okay, that there's nothing in that easement existing, and then it goes as a resolution before city council on the consent agenda. And Mr. Kizilbosh was explaining to us that down in the county, based on some of the subdivision plans, they have plats, and how it's worded in there, that they are able to just have, the county is able to just sign off without having to send out these forms to the entities to get their signatures. And that was something that he had asked us to possibly look into, because it would save like 5 or 6 weeks. On the other hand, we're getting something in writing from those entities.
It's a shortcut and a savings. But then the county would be vacating easements on our land. Well,
no,
their county too.
He was just using the county's process as an example.
Yeah. It works better, you're saying.
Yeah.
I understand. Other question I had, and I brought it up on the project across the street. These alleys flood really bad, and it looks like his sheet flows from the property into the adjoining neighbors to the, I guess that would be east?
Yeah, right now, on the vacant lot, it's a bad condition. It's has a depression. It's collected
holding
there,
water.
then it's flowing to the alley. But with this retention, it's improved a lot of.
It's gonna help a lot of it.
Yeah.
I just seen some of your flow arrows going into the alleyway.
Yeah.
And you're at a 28 along the edge there, and you're almost a foot higher than the other side. But I
Yes.
know that those lots on that side there, the rear yards flood pretty bad
Yeah,
all the time.
what is the drainage criteria is which we follow for each project is all for 25-year storm.
Correct.
Okay.
But
That
shouldn't
is
you
about
contain all your water?
That's about 9.5 inch rain in 24 hours. That's a lot of rain.
Yeah.
Okay, for 20. When you, the meaning of 25 year, it means it happened once in a 25 year. So that's the meaning of that. That's what's happening.
You don't design for your 100-year
so-
storm here?
Huh? And same thing that the criteria for St. John has once in a 100-year criteria.
Okay.
That is also very high criteria. But this one is retain all the water. We're just making a little weir there in case the ground doesn't absorb that way in 72 hours. We still have a little opening to flow to
Okay.
the south. That's just my
Okay.
question.
I have used this veterinarian before, and I've noticed they always walk their dogs in the new parking area that you're designing. And do they have a plan for a different area to walk their pets?
They own the lots next door, all
the immediate over one,
Yeah, on
too.
the west side. The 3 more lots they own.
That's where they'll walk them now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I asked the question.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Nice plan.
Excuse me, I would like to address the idea of an automatic abandonment. I know that the utility abandonment is cumbersome and takes a lot of time, but because of my experience with getting clear title to properties and having lenders approve the title, I really don't think that automatic abandonment is going to do the trick for, I think it could cause problems in the eventual sale of a property in the future that I've had this experience already with having to search for lenders and title companies insist on having something in writing that shows that the utility, that the easement was abandoned, and they might change that at some point in the future, but right now.
So what's very interesting, though, about the Sebastian Highlands subdivision plat is there's 17 units. And units 9 through 17, there is specific verbiage on the cover sheet of the plat that says if more than 1 or 2 lots are unified, the easements automatically go to the outside, and you don't have to formally abandon them. It's the units from 1 through 8 that don't have that verbiage, that it was opined by a previous city attorney that said there must have been a reason why they didn't put it on those particular lower units, and this formal abandonment is required. Because this is in Unit 8, that's why they would have to go through this formal. But there are some of the other lots that they are just automatically taken away once you unify those, unify the 2 lots
And that works because it says that.
on the plat.
But if it doesn't say it, then they're going to want to see an official abandonment. And we just don't want to cause, I wouldn't want to cause somebody a problem in the future, because sometimes everybody who knew what was going on is no longer in existence, and it causes big problems. That's
Well, thank
my
you.
experience, sorry.
No, there's no need to be sorry. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm sure Mr. Kissenboss took it out. Okay.
I got one question, Mr. Reyes. Now, this here, I don't see any parking spaces, so they're just gonna park in the, I guess, on the dirt there, or?
What do you mean parking?
You're looking at the wrong
There's no
plan.
parking. You're looking at survey? There's no parking on survey.
That's the wrong
Look at
plan.
sheet 3.
That's the site.
It's a survey.
Sheet 3, you can see that.
Sorry.
Okay, it's okay.
There is a big parking plan, do you? Okay,
Okay.
we're good? Thank you. At this time, I would like to open the floor for anyone in favor of the project that would wish to speak. Seeing none, I'd like to open the floor for anyone in opposition of the project that would wish to speak. Hearing none. Staff can provide an answers to everybody's questions, all commissioners' questions. This time, I would like to make a motion or request a motion, please.
I'll make a motion that we accept the site modification plan for the Hometown Pet Care Center for additional parking at 827 Sebastian Boulevard, with the recommendations provided by staff.
I will second that.
I'll second the motion.
I believe Mr. Reyes second.
Gibson, second.
That's correct, Ms. Graham. Roll call, please.
Okay. Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Roth?
I have a question, I'm sorry. Mr. Stokes, may I ask you a question before I vote, or no?
Well, I gave that opportunity to ask a second question.
Yeah, once the
and then I
question's called,
requested.
under Robert's rule, once the question's called, deliberation ends.
Okay,
Would you
Mr.
like to
Roth?
recall your motion, Mr. Carter, so that Mr. Ross can,
I voted yes. Please move forward.
Mrs. Graham?
Mr. Alvarez?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Ms. Cottenberg?
Yes.
It's unanimous and passes.
Thank you. Project's been approved.
We're a happy bunch today.
That brings to an end our judicial public hearings. We have no unfinished business. Is there any public input on any?
We have no public.
We have no public.
I have one public.
Commissioner matters.
I don't matter.
I have one question on the, when is the new pickleball court scheduled to be open?
It's open.
They actually had an opening this morning. It's very well attended.
You missed it, Mr. Carter.
That's a great project, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It came out
It was
with
just packed.
Yeah.
Packed. Couldn't get
Well, I
parking
was
anywhere near it
snoozing then.
today.
I was there today.
I did bring up a question to staff last meeting about some accessory structures that I had some concern about. Staff has answered my questions. I believe you emailed everybody.
No, I didn't. I apologize. Mr. Reyes had some questions regarding an accessory structure at 557 Sloan. Wasn't sure of the size and if it had permits. It actually went before you guys about a year ago, and it was approved. And then there was near his residence, a metal structure that went up on Futch Way, and it turned out that it was 494 square feet. So it did not hit the threshold to come before you. It is a metal building, and I'm sure it looks pretty big. But it had been closed out the end of January. I actually sent somebody out there to make sure it was the size that was on the permit, because it was only in one place, but it was a 19 by 25 shed. So we had forwarded that information to Mr. Reyes. He had called me on Monday, and we got that information.
Was that on a corner lot, the property on the corner?
Yes,
It
on
is
Futch Way.
corner lot. And I will bring up as
The limit is 499, somewhere exactly 500.
Actually, the code says anything over 500, so 501 above will come before the board.
well, I think we may need to relook at that because these 499s are monstrous looking and they have no requirements. That's the color, roof pitch. I don't even know that you have a requirement on materials. And definitely no shrubbery requirements at all. They are big. I had a neighbor put one up and she had told me that she didn't need it because it was the max size and it looks half the size of one of the ones I commented on. So we may want to look at some changes to code there.
The one on Futch Way is about maybe 2 feet from the house, the big
Yeah,
shed.
and they're right up against, some of them are right up against the setback lines. I think in the past we have approved some that didn't have electric on them either. Anyhow, I just think we need to look at those a little closer. Some of these that are going in are being used for other things than that I think they're telling us they're gonna use them for, so. Anyhow, any other commissioner matters?
I would second what you just said.
Yes.
City attorney matters.
Nothing, sir.
If I may, Mr. Stokes, I thought I had a new city attorney at my last workshop. So you're back?
Well, Mr. Anand is the new city attorney, but he's also a U.S. Army reservist.
That is.
He's a major
Thank you.
in the Army Reserve, and he is on training right now. So he asked me to cover the meeting, and I was more than happy to.
Well, it's good
Okay.
seeing you again.
Great to see you again. Mr. Loring, I apologize, I'm not familiar with you.
You might have been missing it already
Yeah.
at his first meeting. This is our new, well, he's not new anymore. He's been here a few months, but he is our senior planner. He started, I think, the first week in January in the Community Development Department. And
Excellent.
He has 18 years of experience of planning, senior planning, presenting. We're so lucky to get him.
Residential?
Everything.
Everything.
I've seen it all.
Florida?
Actually, I worked with Mr. Stokes in Palm Bay.
Excellent. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Look forward to hearing from you. No other matters, staff matters?
We do have one thing for staff. In front of you, you received a really large packet of material.
Right.
Those are the components for the comprehensive plan for schools and
Housing, future land use.
We're asking you to try to digest all of that material so that we can have an informed discussion in a couple weeks at our next meeting. And I know it's a lot. We appreciate any kind of input that you may have. We're working very diligently to try to package a lot of these components for the comprehensive plan update, which is due later this year.
Thank you.
I just want to add to, so what you have is, and I think it's in the cover sheet, you've got you have what's in the comp plan now, the element that we currently have with the strikeout version. So you're going to see what they're taking out, what they're adding, and then you've got the clean copy, which would be what the new comp plan would look like. And that is going to be the goals, what we call the GOPs, the goals, objectives, and policies, and also the updated data and analysis. We don't, if you do need it, a lot of the things that are being crossed out are because of redundancy. Maybe we are changing a policy, but redundancy, maybe things are being repeated, so don't be alarmed by the amount of strikeouts that you're going to see. If you do need it to explain a little bit, we do have a matrix that does give the details on why that was being removed, but I think when you go to the new clean element, you'll see that it flows with the new policies and what's being presented. These are the drafts, and this is what we'll be talking about at that next meeting. And Kimley Horn, our consultants, will also be at that meeting too.
Okay, thank you.
Just a meeting that we want the public to attend. I know we mentioned.
It is a public workshop, I believe.
Is it a public workshop?
No, this isn't, it won't be set up necessarily as a workshop. This is where you're going to be reviewing those elements and then doing a motion and making a recommendation to City Council. This is the only time those elements will be before you. And so certainly if there's some changes or drafts that we want to do, but you'll be making your recommendation motion to City Council on these 3 items.
So if the public wants to speak in reference to
Certainly.
it, they should come to the council meeting, or?
No, it's still a public, it's still a public meeting. They'll have the opportunity to get up and speak.
To speak.
But it's not necessarily the workshop type of answer. This is an actual public hearing per se. Yes.
Okay.
You know.
Information in the packet that I just got here is not available to the public at this time. They wouldn't have access.
It certainly
Before
can be
the
put online, yeah,
strike-throughs,
it's all public record information,
No,
yeah.
after the strikers, see what's being changed.
Well, it'll become public record once
Yeah, we
it's.
can, we told you at the kickoff meeting in October that we would give you this material 2 weeks before the meetings instead of the normal week that we do. We didn't give the agenda cover sheet. We certainly can get the agenda put together and we can put it on the website so it's available to the public, yes.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
What is the next step then on March 19th?
So this is where you'll be giving staff and the consultant if there's a policy that you would like to see changed or added, or This is where you're going to review these 3 elements and input your ideas also. But they will be implemented in there, and this is the one time that you're going to get to see these. Then you'll make a recommendation to City Council. We recommend these 3 elements with these changes, or hey, we like this as it is, the school element. But these are the 3 of 8. So there will be 3 more elements at an April meeting that you're going to be going through and seeing, and then there's 2 more elements that you're going to go through and see. So there's an element, what was it, the NRB just reviewed the coastal and conservation element. They reviewed that, and they had some recommendations that they wanted to put in it before you get it. And now you're going to get that element that has already been reviewed by that board. Our open space and parks and recreation element is also going to be reviewed by the Parks and Rec Board. And so they may have some changes or some suggestions to add into that before it gets to you. But this is the meeting where you get to see this, and then it'll be moved on to City Council. They're going to get all 8 elements at one time, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're correct.
All right.
I'm hesitating because there may be the public hearing when you get all 8 of them back in September. So I apologize. This is definitely, though, where you get to put in your input and anything that you want to see changed. And I do want to change that. I believe there is going to be the formal public hearing in September where all 8 elements come back to you, that's where you do your formal recommendation to City Council.
Okay. No other staff matters?
No.
Wow, I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Thank you.